Jerry Brown here with Jerry Brown Travels.
Laurie here. Well, in this video, we're going to talk with Jim Cooks about to rent the house or buy the house.
That's the question. You know, right now there's so much activity here in Lake Chapala area, also throughout all of Mexico, in building. There's a building frenzy going on. And so a lot of people are coming down, they're excited and everything, but is it the right time to buy? That's the question. And we'll talk with Jim Cook, and he's lived here. He's got a lot of experience. He's been a renter, and also he has bought a home. And let's get his input on what you should look for, what are some of the pitfalls. This way, when you come down into Mexico, and it doesn't have to be here in this area, all through Mexico, there's a boom going on. And so we're going to give you information that's going to be pertinent to your success in retiring or moving to Mexico.
Okay, let's go see Jim Cook.
Let's go see first. Let's have breakfast. Should you rent or buy a home in Mexico? That's the question we'll find out today. Jerry Brown here with Jerry Brown Travels, and I'm here with Jim Cook. And Jim has lived here in Lakeside, Chapala, Ajijic for 9 years now, and he has experience renting and also in buying a house. And so what I wanted to do is to have you join us in this conversation on what you can expect in buying a house and what you can expect for renting a house. And if you're contemplating about doing that, then this video is going to be quite valuable to you, because here we're going to talk to Jim, who has first-hand practical information about that. So, you know, Jim, I get a lot of requests, and people are asking, you know, on the YouTube channel about buying a house or renting a house. You know, what do you recommend? Somebody's coming down, they're thinking about, you know, living in Mexico. What advice do you have?
Well, first, I would suggest don't even think about buying right away.
Okay.
Rent for at least a year, preferably for 2 years.
Okay.
Until you get a sense of what the rental market is down here, how things work, what the buying process is like, you know, what to expect. You also get a sense of the area and where you might want to live and what some of the problems might be with any particular area. You can't just do a drive-through in these neighborhoods. Things are very different down here, and I've heard any number of horror stories of people that came down and fell in love with Lake Chapala and Ajijic on a week-long visit, and before they left they'd bought a house.
Yeah.
And then they discover that empty lot that was next to the house, well, somebody just bought it and turned it into a carpenter shop with whining saws all day, or turned it into an evento center where every weekend there's loud parties.
No.
Or they didn't know very much about the construction processes down here, and so there were a lot of problems in their house that they didn't expect. So make sure you know what you're doing. Plus, Mexico isn't for everybody. I mean, I love it. I've been down here for 9 years.
Yeah.
Not everybody can make the transition. And you don't want to buy and then discover in 6 months or a year or 2 years, oh my God, I can't live here. I just can't stand it. I got to get back.
Yeah.
Well, then you have this house that you may have a very tough time selling.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, the real estate market down here tends to be very illiquid.
Well, also, you have to pay cash here for a house.
Oh yes, oh that's the other thing. There's virtually no mortgage system down here that anybody up north would recognize. So I would say, do not buy right away. No matter what the real estate agents say, no matter what other people say, test it out, try it out, make sure that you personally can live here and that you have some sense of what you're getting into.
Okay, well, I know that you personally have taken that advice and done that yourself, because you've been here 9 years and you just recently you bought a home. And how long ago have you bought the home?
Well, we've lived at our condominium where we have now about a year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay.
But we rented for about 7.5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And only decided to buy a house when my wife and I negotiated that if we were going to stay down here really long term, she wanted to own a house.
Yeah.
So at that point, we knew what we were doing, and we knew what the pitfalls were and what to expect. Even so, the process was unlike anything I'd experienced buying and selling houses up north. So there were still some surprises.
Right, right.
But we were educated enough about what we were doing that there wasn't really a problem.
Yeah, yeah. I know Carole was mentioning that when you guys got the contract, it was all in Spanish.
Yes.
It wasn't in English, it was in Spanish. And here you're presented with the contract and you're supposed to sign it, you know. I mean...
Exactly, and there were at least one clause in the contract that we definitely didn't want in there. And if we hadn't known Spanish, and if Carole hadn't gone through and line by line read the contract, she wouldn't have discovered that. And I don't think that it would have caused us a problem because we knew the people we were buying from pretty well. Okay. But it could have. Yeah. Yeah. And that same clause has caused other people big problems. Yeah. It's also difficult for someone coming down here from the US or Canada to have a sense of what something's really worth. Their automatic tendency is to say, gee, you know, a $200,000 house, which you could get a pretty good house here for $200,000. Wow, that's dirt cheap. Yeah. Well, it would be in the U.S., but it may be overpriced here. And that's a factor if you're going to try to sell it. Yeah. You're not going to sell anything for one dime more than what somebody else is willing to pay for it. Right, right. And a lot of expats make the mistake of overpaying in the first place, and then they want to make it their dream house, of course, so they pour all this money in, fixing it up and changing it and putting all this great stuff in it, and then they say, well, that's what it's worth. It's not worth that. It's only worth what somebody was willing to pay. Right, right. And you may have, in fact, I know people that have taken, you know, had reduced their price $50,000, $100,000 simply because it sat in the market for 5 or 6 years and never got a bid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard of even more than losing, you know, like losing half on a house. If they didn't do their due diligence before, bought it at a good price, and then watch what they put in it. Didn't overbuild the neighborhood. So if you've been down here and you've been renting for a year or two, and you've walked the neighborhoods and you've talked to people, lots and lots of people, and you've sort of priced things over time, begin to get a sense of what the real values are. Yeah. And really a big advantage about renting, you know, because renting, you can check out different neighborhoods, you can check out different sizes of houses. The automatic reflex is to buy as much house as you can afford, right? So people do that, and they end up with this palace, right? Yeah. Well, it's great living in a palace until you discover that, well, you got to keep this place up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's a real headache, and it can be expensive, and so you have to have, you know, maids and gardeners and all this kind of stuff, and you're retired, and so now you're managing a staff. You know, hey, I'm retired. I don't want to manage anybody. This has been great. You've given us a lot of information. You've helped out our viewers here, and I know they'll have a lot of comments and information that they want. One of the things that I want to mention is that Jim also writes a blog, and it's a great blog. It's all about Mexico, all the places that Carole, his wife, and himself have traveled to, and I'm going to put a note down below with a link to that blog. And my recommendation is, if you want to do some research on Mexico, or you want to use it as a traveling guide, use it, because he can give you all the information about towns that they have traveled to. I want to say is that, you know, because we're down here, and, you know, like an interview like this with Jim and other people, we're able to give you information
that would be pertinent to questions you may want. So I ask you, maybe you would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know it's free, and you can make a comment. Jim, you should stand back there because I look too small here. Stand back there. Now, do I look taller here? Yeah, that could be okay. Thanks, Jim, for doing all this. Appreciate it. I know our audience will enjoy everything we have here. So
you're more than welcome.
Excellent.